Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I've got a Glock 49. Please don't forget to check out our website. Go to our affiliates page. You'll find discount codes for things like Mantis Axe and Core belts. Link to that cool little bore light that we use for lighting up the barrels. Use those links. It will often save you money, never will cost you any additional money, and helps the channel. And please consider supporting the channel on Player, formerly Utreon, where we can do some types of videos that are no longer allowed on YouTube. The Glock 49 that's sitting here on the table is basically a cross between the 19, which you see back here, and its predecessor, the 17. Kind of like the 19X or the Glock 45, where they had a Glock 17 frame size or grip size, but a Glock 19 slide. This one's the other way around. The grip frame on this, all the way out into the dust cover, is a Glock 19 grip frame. Holds Glock 19 15-round magazines. But the slide you see here is a Glock 17 slide. Now this isn't like the Franken gun that I showed you in the first intro. This is the real thing from Glock. So of course, instead of saying 17 on it, it says 49. And this is a Gen 5, so it has no finger grooves. Does still have the replaceable back straps. It's got the front and rear serrations and the NDLC coating that all of the Gen 5s have. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this critter up and talk about it a little bit. And then we'll also talk about the other two that are sitting here next to it. So because I mentioned that it is a Glock 17 size, it is 7.95 inches front to back. With the flush magazine in it, it's 5.04 inches tall from top to bottom. Glock 19 top to bottom, Glock 17 length, and it's 1.34 inches thick, because that's basically the size of all the Gen 5s, other than when you get into the 45s and the 10 millimeters. And of course, it's got a serration or texture here where the back strap would go, so you can use it without a back strap, and then it comes with two additional back straps you can do to make the grip a little bit thicker. Now this one is a little interesting in that it came with these 10-round magazines, because this was significantly cheaper than the standard one. This is for the restricted states, so it's a white label. And I was able to get this significantly cheaper because unless you live in one of those states, it's undesirable. However, Florida's not, so I can put 15 rounds or greater magazines in it, and I actually did take it to the range and test it. It works flawlessly with the Glock 19 regular 17-round magazines. Now, if you didn't have magazines to begin with, I'm sorry, 15-round magazines. If you didn't have any magazines to begin with, that might be a poor choice, but I've got a few Glock 19s. I've got enough magazines to make up for the fact that I've got some of these 10 rounds that aren't as useful. In general, you'll probably see them around $650-ish. Glock doesn't publish an MSRP, so the price will vary, but they do enforce MAP, minimum advertised pricing, so you won't see them advertised real cheap, but you may be able to once you add it to your cart, etc., etc. So they're consistent with the pricing of all other Glocks, and for the most part, it's the same as all the others. It has the U-dot sights that you're become used to on Glocks. They're very easily replaced, dovetail at the rear, and there's a screw underneath the sight in the front. And this one is MOS. In fact, all the Glock 49s are MOS. You remove this plate, and you can put the optic of your choice on it. And like all of the MOS Glocks, it comes with a little kit of plates, so you don't have to go buy in plates. It's got everything you need to put whatever optic on it you want. The trigger is standard Glock. It's about a 5.5 pound trigger, minimal take-up, very defined wall, again about 5.5 pounds. Reasonably short reset, tactile and audible, and you're right on the wall. And you pull it again. So it's got if you're used to Glock triggers, it's pretty much the same as any other Glock trigger. The magazine release is reversible, and it has ambi slide stop slide release. And as you can see, it's got serrations here at the back, your standard Glock serrations, and then serrations at the front. So it's easy to get a hold of, do press checks. Other than that, it works the same. Takedown and everything else is the same on this. One thing you will notice is the frame ends, because this is a Glock 19 size frame, and you have the extension on the slide like you've come to see on the competition guns like the 34, the 35. You have this little extension. Also on the Glock 40 has that as well. And that's what hides the spring and shows it, makes it look clean and smooth. So I'm going to show you this compared to the prior guns, the predecessors to it. So here's a 19, And if I put them up side by side, get the camera zoomed out, you'll see the grips are the same. Actually, we turn them upside down. You'll see the grips are the same. The frame is the same. Position of the trigger guard, everything is the same. Now this is a Gen 4, the 19, so it's got the finger grooves, but Gen 5s don't. But you can see where the slide's a little bit longer. And this is where it gets interesting. I got this 17 here. If I put the 17 next to it, and I get it all lined up right, the 17 is, of course, as you would expect, the same size, but the dust cover is longer. Of course, the grip is taller. There's a room for an entire finger plus on the grip. But I've got sitting here a Springfield Armory Hellcat. And this Hellcat has a threaded barrel. This is a Hellcat Pro. And when I put this here on the end, you'll see that it's not a whole lot shorter than the Glock 17 that's sitting here in the middle. In fact, I'll swap them around to make it a little easier. So I've got the 17 on the far end here, if I can get it lined up nicely. I've got the 17 on the far end. I've got the new 49. I've got the Hellcat Pro and the Glock 19. And the Hellcat Pro is just a bit shorter. So overall, it's not significantly larger than a lot of the guns that you might carry. The hardest thing for concealed carry is the grip. That's the part that's hard to hide. The slide length, with the exception of a couple concealed carry positions where the length of it may matter, most of the time you can hide a longer slide, but you need a shorter grip. The longer slide gives it a little bit better balance, makes it fairly easy to shoot well. One thing I've always found is the 17 with the grip, the larger grip and the larger slide, I couldn't as easily shoot well as I could the 19, but I was surprised. With the 49, I was able to shoot it as easily as I could the 19. So it may be a really good choice for concealed carry if you're wanting a little bit bigger sight radius and a little more front end weight on it. These are all, of course, 9mm, which is the 19, the 17 are 9mm, as well as the Hellcat. So let me get rid of the rest of these, because of course this isn't about Hellcats and Glock 17s, it's about the Glock 49. So make these all go away. And now I'm back to the 49. And I'm going to take it down and show you the internals on it. So takedown is relatively easy, like in a Glock. Make sure it's clear, pull the trigger, pull the slide back a little bit. I just kind of grab it and close my hand. That'll bring it back just enough to take the tension off these tangs, and then it pops right apart. So they come apart easy. The frame is the same as any other Gen 5 frame. We've got locking rails guide rails at the front, locking block here in the middle, guide rails at the back, and the fire control unit. And these are some of the components that people have sometimes tend to polish to make it a little bit smoother, but it works fine right out of the box. And you can see for the slide stop slide release, the ambi, robust arms. So this is not going to be one where one's going to work better than the other. These both work. They both work reliably. It doesn't matter which one you pick. So it is kind of lefty friendly, and because you can reverse the magazine catch, you can make it even more lefty friendly. But like most pistols, the eject's always going to be to the right, and very few of them ever turn it around for the other direction. Make that go away. It is a little bit longer looking captive guide rod and spring assembly, and it does appear to be steel as opposed to polymer. Nope, it does have a polymer guide rod. Guide rod's polymer, everything else about it's steel. 4.49 inch barrel. Typical Glock, the standard feed ramp. But because this is a Gen 5, this has their marksman rifling, which is effectively a hybrid between conventional and polygonal. And they've been doing that on all of their Gen 5s. And it does tend to work well if I can get the camera to focus on it. There it goes. So that's the rifling you'll find in the Gen 5s. And then the slide, well machined but not fancy. They don't do any special polishing. Move up to the front of it and you can see, if I can get some light in there, get it turned a little bit, you can see where they have basically it's an extension of the front of the slide. And that's what allows for that extra length to hide the spring and make the gun look normal. And this is no different than what they've done on many of their competition guns. So reassembling this is relatively easy. drop the barrel in. Those extensions do make it a little bit more cumbersome, just a hair. And same thing with getting the guide rod in. It can be a little bit of a trick. Got to be careful not to pinch your finger because of the way it sits in there. But once you've got that together, put it on the slide, or put it on the frame, and it goes right back together. So if you like the 19X, but a lot of people when the 19X came out, they said it's the gun we didn't want. We wanted the 19 grip and the longer slide. But of course they sold like wildfire. So for the gun that nobody wanted, Glock was able to sell them as fast as they could make them. 45 was the same, and you kind of had the same thing when the 45 came out. I want it the other way around. Well, now you've got it the other way around. And if you don't like this one, the 19X or the 45 will take care of it. So at this point, you can have whichever combination you want. And the interesting thing is the Glock 17 slide doesn't work properly on the Glock 19 frame if you just take apart a 17 and try to put it on the 19. I did that for that intro video, and it didn't work correctly, but it looked like I needed it to make the point. Overall, I found it to be reliable. It worked reliably from round one. I found it actually very easy to shoot well at the range. It was comfortable to hold. It kind of pointed well. So I do think it's a good choice for concealed carry. Unless of course you're going for a single stack or the smaller 26. I do think it's a good choice for concealed carry, and it might be worth taking a look at. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell up there to be notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Player, Rumble. We're pretty much everywhere. And thank you.